New tonight, a police officer is facing jail time for alleged possession of nearly $500 in fake cash. What prosecutors are claiming coming up. But first,
coming up tonight, we're looking at some of the overnight flooding and some of the businesses who were affected by it.
Also, the sunken barge off New Providence that's posing a major threat to the ecosystem. Tonight, the former BNT chief is sounding the alarm over the potential irreparable damage. And then in our news at 7:30, details from inside the courtroom as a former political campaign general agrees to testify against a now embattled former cabinet minister. Our news live at 7 starts now. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Megan Shepard. Well, it's been a rainy couple of days in New Providence, and forecasters are saying there's more wet weather to come over the next several days. We've got more on how businesses and commuters are being impacted in a moment, but we'll check in now with meteorologist Greg Thompson, who is in the Weather Center. And Greg, I know you've been following this system for the past 24 hours. It's been a lot of rain, yeah?
Yeah, I had about almost 2 inches of rain in my yard in the rain gauge, and we are going to see some more rainfall coming with this system. That's all courtesy of a frontal boundary that's now parked across the central Bahamas. But let's paint the picture for you. A very long trail of moisture associated with a trough in the mid and upper levels. That is actually the leading edge of the frontal boundary at the surface, and that moisture plume will continue to remain with us over the next 24 to maybe even 72 hours as this frontal boundary starts to slide back towards the north. Satellite and radar imagery showing a lot of moisture associated with this at the surface, and that will continue to plague us throughout the rest of the night. Showers and thunderstorms will be occurring. Of course, we are asking you beachgoers, you boaters, to remain in port as we have some very strong winds behind the system. And as you mentioned, Megan, commuters and business alike will be seeing some rainfall. Flooding is expected in those low-lying areas as well as flood-prone zones across most of the northwest and central Bahamas. But as I said, this moisture is not going anywhere anytime soon. The frontal boundary is expected to lift back towards the north. There is a low-pressure system developing in the Gulf of Mexico. That's actually going to lift across Florida, and that will actually bring more of this moisture back up across the northwest Bahamas. So we're looking for some very long weather, wet weather for tonight through tomorrow. Megan?
Thanks, Greg. And as we said, we'll check in with you again in a moment. But as we said at the top, businesses and commuters have obviously been impacted by existing weather conditions. Our Marlene Leonard picks up the story from here.
Overnight storms left their mark in communities across the capital this morning, leaving morning commuters on Bay Street combating the flooding between Victoria Avenue and Christie Street. This morning on Saunders Beach, the roads were filled with sand and debris, which reminded some local business owners of another storm last year. In November of last year, Hurricane Nicole sent storm surge and debris into much of New Providence's northern coast. Owner of 90-Day Transformation Faisal Hall recounts.
That was actually right here as some of the film that came on. That was my neighbor, he filmed it. We were looking at it right from here. Concerned, but you know, this is where we live, this is where we chose to do our thing. So you just take the necessary precautions is what you can do, make sure everybody's safe.
As for today's weather, Hall says they usually do their workouts outdoors, but were able to bring the smaller class inside due to some staying home from the rain. We had a lot of clients kind of like stay home and stay off of the roads, but the main thing, our main clients who focus on, you know, working out and stuff, a lot of them came in. Manager of Juicing for Life, Hervé Swavey, tells us,
it looks like it slowed down business a good amount. And this isn't as much as I want to say it's juicing weather. It doesn't look like it's come to Juicing for Life weather. A lot of people get deterred, especially on Bay Street, because, you know, we get a lot of debris from the beach, so we get the sand, the rocks, and the salt water. This morning, on this stretch, it wasn't as bad, but further out west, I heard a lot of people complain, talk about how they had to play dodgeball with the debris.
With the rain expected to continue this week, and in light of a series of severe flooding in Nassau,
preparing for hurricane season, get a Jeep. Don't drive in any March, don't drive in any low-riding vehicle. Get a Jeep or a truck.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. Well, a police officer who allegedly had $450 in fake currency at his home has been ordered to wear an ankle bracelet as condition of his $7,000 bail. Prosecutors allege Luxemon was found on April 5th with 4 Bahamian $100 notes and a Bahamian $50 note that were counterfeit. Constable Akeem Luxemon appearing before senior magistrate Carolyn Vo Evans today on charges of possession of forged currency. He pleaded not guilty and is expected back in court on July 26 for trial. In the meantime, he's been prohibited from his duties pending the outcome of the case. A family feud ended in the arrest of a 55-year-old man. Police charged the suspect with possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life after they say he opened fire on a family member following an argument. Police say the incident occurred around 10:52 on March 31st. The victim reported that while he was at his Hamster Road home, he had a verbal altercation with the family member, which escalated. During that argument, the suspect reportedly retrieved a licensed firearm and opened fire on the victim. No one was hurt during the incident. And a 20-year-old Exuma man is behind bars on rape charges. Officers from the Criminal Investigation Department in New Providence arrested the Williamstown Exuma resident in connection with the incident that reportedly occurred on March 25th. Police say the suspect raped a woman in Exuma after giving her a ride home from a business on that island. The suspect has been transported to New Providence for further questioning. Former BNT executive Eric Carey is raising the alarm about a partially sunken barge off the northern coast of New Providence, saying the damage it could do to the reef it sits on could be irreparable. Marlena Leonard reports.
The barge is still there. I pass it every day.
President and CEO of One Consultants, Eric Carey, is disappointed that a barge which has been sitting on a reef in northern New Providence since late 2022 is still there. He originally posted his concern about the barge back in December of last year.
It sits on a reef. It seems to be pretty solid. It's not moving, so it's wedged in there. So it's probably going to take an effort to take it off, which is why it hasn't been pulled off yet. But it needs to be gone.
More than 75% of coral reefs in the Atlantic Ocean are threatened, and they support at least a quarter of marine life. Carey's main concern is what happens when a storm impacts the wreck. And it's particularly days like today that Carey is concerned about, where the rough and stormy waters continue to push that barge into the already delicate reef.
It's a massive piece of steel, so a storm banging that around, it's going to be like a sledgehammer being wielded by a massive force.
And Carey assures us the consequences would be felt above the waves as well.
Those waves break on that reef. The reef dissipates the energy. It protects the coastline. So if the reef gets destroyed, then even in smaller storms, we're going to have more impact on our beaches, our roads. Those of you who live on the coast, you're going to find your houses completely undermined.
The northern coast saw significant coastal flooding last hurricane season with Hurricane Nicole last November. Ocean waves forced road closures of major roads along the coastline, and Carey says with a compromised reef, surges would only get worse.
It doesn't take a big storm to move a barge like that and cause damage, and then once the reef gets compromised, then it's much easier for other storms then to come in and have an impact because it's been compromised.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. Well, we've got much more to get to tonight, but Greg is still in the Weather Center tracking our current conditions and has your first look at temperatures across the islands. Greg?
Yeah, thanks again, Megan. Welcome back, everybody. It's really cool outside. Temperatures around the islands right now, it's in the low to mid-70s, 72 in Grand Bahama, and the cloudy sky, 74 in Marshall, Babaco as well, 72 in Allenstown, Bimini with some showers around, as well as in Nicholstown, Andros. Great Albuquerque, you guys at 73 here in the capital, 74. We pick up 74 also in Governor's Harbor. Central Bahamas, 76 in Kemps Bay, 74 in Arthurstown, Cat Island. Pair of 78s in Georgetown as well as in Deadman's Key, 75 in Coleman Town, San Salvador. And you guys have some showers nearby. And into the Southeast Bahamas, 79 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. Pick up more 78s in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, Delectable Bay, as well as Abrams Bay. Providenciales, Turks and Caicos Islands, 79, and Matthewtown, Inagua. You guys are 80 at this hour. That's a quick look at temperatures. Back to you, Megan.
Still to come on our news, teamwork makes the dream work. Why the chamber chief on Grand Bahama is pushing the Port Authority and government to work together to solve issues. This as Nassau Airport officials are touting a new cell phone parking lot. And later, bearing gifts. Find out why the Chinese ambassador was in Parliament today. That's coming up when our news returns.
Just when Leo was about to buy this useless pair of Hands underwear,
oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. Oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Shareholders are very happy.
Oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lacaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Well, this August will mark 68 years since the signing of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, the document that gave the Grand Bahama Port Authority responsible for the development, administration, and management of the city of Freeport. Tonight, the president of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, James Carey, is weighing in on the relevancy and viability of the port today.
Things have changed, just with technology and the approach to doing business, it has all changed. So if nothing else, a visit of that agreement, I think, is in order. And a reconfirmation or change is the order of the day. But the Port Authority, I think, is still relevant for the port area of Grand Bahama.
Carey also says there seems to be public perception that the two families are not working in unison as their father and grandfather once did. He also points out that for years the Port Authority has been operating without a chairman.
It leaves one wondering, why is it so difficult perhaps to appoint a chairman? Because that in itself is a very serious statement of commitment to Grand Bahama, and also a statement to would-be investors that there is stability in the.
And as it stands, the Port Authority has management over the city of Freeport, while the government has reign over all other areas outside of Freeport. The GB Chamber Chief says it is time for all parties to come together to clearly define roles.
The Port Authority, operating almost as a quasi-government operation, should be able to sit on a regular basis with the Bahamas government.
Carey says while past generations were more inclined to wait and see, this generation demands more. He is calling for transparency from the Port Authority.
We hear what you say, but we really need evidence. We want to see what you're doing, and while there's room for protest, the transparency goes a long way in quelling some questions that might exist, and persons just want to participate.
Well, if you've got to pick up from the Lyndon Pinling International Airport, a new cell phone parking lot may make things a little easier for you, especially avoiding being booked or towed. It officially opened before the Thanksgiving holiday rush last November. Vice President of Operations at the Nassau Airport Development Company, Jonathan Hanna, says it took quite a bit of public education campaigning to get the information out.
We work with the Royal Bahamas Police Force and other entities and partners on the road traffic, on the land side that is, to make sure that the word gets out. And so even as persons come along the lane, the road traffic officers and the police force officers are arming them with that information. Hey, you don't need to park here, but there is a free lot. And so we've seen a significant uptick in the use of the lot.
And he's encouraging the public to take advantage of the lots.
We want to make sure that the traffic flow in and around the airport is as efficient as possible. And so when persons sit there and wait and idle, it prevents someone else from being able to pick someone up who might already be on the curb. And so it's simple. You just literally drive right around. The lot is there. It has more than enough capacity to hold quite a number of vehicles. And we just wait for, that WhatsApp text message or that call to come through, and you just come right back around, pick the persons up, and off you go.
The House of Assembly is now the home of 6 brand new smart TVs, a donation courtesy of the Chinese government. Presenting the equipment to Parliament today, Chinese Ambassador Qing Dai says the presentation marks the 50th independence and the relationship between both countries.
China is a close friend of the Bahamas, and we have had this friendship for nearly 26 years. So we consider the Bahamas an important country in the Caribbean region and an important cooperation partner for China. Over the past 26 years, we have seen deepening mutual trust and fruitful cooperation and growing exchanges between our institutions and the general public. So we feel happy about the development and progress of our relations.
Expressing gratitude for the donation, House Speaker Patricia DeVoe says the much-needed devices will be installed immediately.
As you know, our instruments are now 14 years of age. So today we are very grateful to be receiving smart televisions that will help us on our journey here in the House of Assembly and as well as the Senate. And I want to continue to build relations with you as we move along and we continue to develop between both parliaments as we and both countries as well. We want to say thank you. We are very, very grateful.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world. As some top secret Pentagon documents are leaked, U.S. officials now rushing to do diplomatic damage control. Plus, the April 11th, 2017 dissolution of Parliament that made way for the May 10th general election that year. A look back at the proclamation on this day in history. And later, hundreds of artist submissions in a Bahamas Air plane wrapping design competition are being narrowed down in a race for the win. The details when our news returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. U.S. national security agencies are reviewing how they share their most sensitive secrets inside the U.S. government, as U.S. officials say they are dealing with the diplomatic fallout from the release of dozens of confidential Pentagon documents, complete with timelines and dozens of military acronyms. Some of the documents marked top secret paint a detailed picture of the war in Ukraine and also offer information on China and allies. Here's Freddie Joyner from our partners at Reuters.
At a press briefing at the White House, U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said they were working on getting to the bottom of it.
We're taking this very, very seriously. There is no excuse for these kinds of documents to be in the public domain. They don't deserve to be in the public domain. They deserve to be protected. If there's actions that need to be taken as we learn more about the extent of what happened here, we'll obviously take those.
3 U.S. officials told Reuters that national security agencies were reviewing how they share their most sensitive secrets inside the U.S. government after the recent release of dozens of confidential documents that appeared online and are dealing with the diplomatic fallout. Some of the most sensitive information is purportedly related to Ukraine's military capabilities and shortcomings. Information about multiple U.S. allies were also leaked. One of the documents gave details of internal discussions among senior South Korean officials about U.S. pressure on Seoul to supply weapons to Ukraine and its policy of not doing so.
The Dalai Lama apologizing yesterday after a video taken in February went viral, causing outrage on social media. In the video, the young boy approaches the 87-year-old Nobel Peace Prize winner and asks for a hug. The spiritual leader invites the boy on stage, points to his cheek and says, "First here," signaling the boy to give him a hug and a kiss. After a few seconds, he pokes his tongue out and says, "And suck my tongue." In a statement, the Dalai Lama apologizing to the boy and his family, as well as his many friends across the world, adding he regrets the incident. 2 boats carrying 1,200 migrants being escorted by the Italian Coast Guard in the Mediterranean Sea. This as emergency workers were racing to rescue a barge with 400 migrants on board that had ran out of fuel. Meantime, the Coast Guard was also escorting another vessel carrying 800 migrants. The boat with 400 migrants departed from Libya, and according to sources, many on board required medical attention, including a child, a pregnant woman, and a disabled person. More than 28,000 migrants have arrived in Italy so far this year, according to the country's interior ministry, a significant surge compared to recent years. And now to the region, as banks in Cuba now accepting cash deposits in U.S. dollars after an almost 2-year ban was lifted on Monday. The Cuban government citing continuing difficulties caused by the ongoing U.S. embargo as the reason for the ban. The move comes as Cuba struggles with the worst economic crisis in decades. And finally, from the region, ExxonMobil Guyana announcing the arrival of the floating production, storage, and offloading vessel Prosperity. It's the 3rd oil platform that will operate offshore and joins 2 other vessels currently producing more than 380,000 barrels per day. The vessel has an initial production capacity of around 220,000 barrels of oil per day and an overall storage volume of 2 million barrels. Still to come in our news today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was April 11th, including the world record set for free diving in Long Island. Plus, we are closer to a winner in the National Flag Carriers plane wrapping competition. More tonight as officials are narrowing down hundreds of submissions. And then in our news at 7:30, hear the story of a grieving mother and why she believes jealousy led to her son's death. That's coming up when our news returns. Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was April 11th, including the dissolution of Parliament that would lead to the May 2017 general election. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1990, the Exuma International Airport in Morristown was officially opened. This plaque at the entrance of the facility commemorating the occasion. Then in 2007, New Zealander William Trowbridge set the world freediving record at Dean's Blue Hole in Long Island. The Historical Society notes Trowbridge reached a depth of 82 meters in 3 minutes and 9 seconds without the assistance of fins, ropes, or weight belts. Dean's Blue Hole is the second deepest known saltwater blue hole in the world. And finally, on this day in 2017, Parliament was dissolved by then Prime Minister Perry Christie. Then Police Commissioner Ellison Greenslade, acting in the capacity of Provost Marshal, made the proclamation.
In exercise of the powers conferred upon the Governor General by Article 66(2) of the Constitution, and acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, I, Dame Marguerite Pendling, Governor General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, do hereby proclaim that Parliament shall be and is hereby dissolved on the 11th day of April 2017.
Moments after the proclamation, then Prime Minister Christie announced general elections were to take place 1 month later on May 10th, 2017. Christie and the Progressive Liberal Party lost the election in a landslide victory for the Free National Movement and its then leader, Dr. Hubert Minnis. Well, Bahamas Air is preparing to announce a winner for their plane wrapping competition. Deputy Managing Director Prince Dorr says there were hundreds of submissions from artists across the Bahamas with unique designs for the aircraft in honor of the airline's 50th anniversary.
We're now compiling all of that information. We formed a committee, and we're looking at within the next week to make the selection for who would be the winner, because we're also bringing on board an additional aircraft within the next 2 months, and that aircraft is scheduled to have the wrap applied to it before it gets here. So we'll be making it known to the public very soon who was the winner. Okay, and I think everybody will be pleased with the design.
He says there are a number of other activities coming up on their calendar leading up to their 50th anniversary.
We have an Easter egg hunt, an essay competition for the kids. We have the donation, because part of our good corporate citizenry is that we are also donating to civic and charitable groups. So this month we actually selected the Reach group to make a contribution to that organization.
And of course, to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for Our News at 7. Joining us now is our Jamila Mizik, who is in for Italia Hall. She's got the latest headlines. Jamila.
Hi, Megan. We are following the case involving a now in battle former cabinet minister, and a grieving mother shares her story. Here now are your latest headlines. Tonight on Our News. New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The upcoming corruption trial of an embattled ex-politician becomes even more highly anticipated as a former campaign chief agrees to testify. Also, why a mother is blaming jealousy for her son's tragic death over the long holiday weekend. Plus, the marital rape debate continues, but the House Speaker remains on the sidelines. And later, the COVID-19 dashboard makes a return as health officials report 80 new COVID cases for the month of February. This as the former health minister raising some concerns. Our News Live at 7:30 is back in a moment.
At Doctors Hospital, our lamp just got brighter. The Loyalty Advantage membership program now has 3 unique plans to choose from. From Lamp Prepaid with free Prime Care visits and service line discounts, Lamp Insured with copay waivers and 0 upfront collections at the ER and inpatient services, or our new Lamp Access, a free plan that offers 10% off labs, pharmacy, and imaging. Lamp has a plan for everyone. To sign up, visit our website or give us a call. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jamila Missick in for Italia Hall. A former campaign general for Lanisha Roll has agreed to testify against the embattled ex-politician at her upcoming corruption trial. Alfred Mortimer pleaded guilty to bribery as part of a plea deal today when he appeared before senior magistrate Carolyn Vo Evans. Mortimer, who didn't have a lawyer, assured the court that he willingly entered into the plea agreement. Roll is accused of fraudulently awarding contracts valued at over $750,000 while serving as the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture from 2019 to 2021. Acting Deputy DPP Cordell Frazier gave the court a summary of the evidence that the prosecution would have presented against Mortimer had the case gone to trial. The court heard that in early 2020, Mortimer's best friend Sterling Moss asked him for help in securing a contract at the Grand Bahama Sporting Complex. Mortimer was a campaign general for Roll, and he's the uncle of Roll's husband, Von Tenken Roll, who's also a defendant in the case. Mortimer agreed to help, and the contract was awarded to GNC Landscaping and Maintenance by the minister. On instructions from Roll, Mortimer allegedly asked Moss for some of the money from the contract. On November 9th, 2020, Moss sent $9,000 to Mortimer. He kept $2,000 for himself, and he allegedly gave an envelope containing $7,000 to the minister's husband as a reward for the minister's help in securing the contract. 2 weeks later, the minister allegedly asked Moss for more money using Mortimer as a go-between. On that occasion, Moss allegedly sent $4,000. Once again, Mortimer kept $2,000 for himself, and he allegedly gave the rest of the bribe money to Von Tenken Roll for the minister. Under the plea agreement, Mortimer has to pay a $5,000 fine and return the $4,000 that he received in bribe money to the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture by June 9th, 2023. Mortimer will be sentenced to 1 year in prison if he doesn't pay the fine and restitution. A mother is speaking out over the death of her son, who she claims died over a trivial matter. The person responsible for the incident is someone close to the family. Our Joshua Williams has the story.
Jealousy. That's what a grieving mother is blaming for her son's death. On Saturday, April 8, police alerted media to a homicide where a man was found lying through Dunmore Street with gunshot wounds. The victim, 32-year-old Leonardo Hepburn. His mother says he was a wonderful son who spent his free time breeding dogs.
My baby gone. He never leave my side. I have 4 sons, and this one son never left my side, not one day. If I move somewhere, he moves with me. If I need my bra strap to hook, he hook that. Who can do that now for me? Who can zip up my clothes for me? Who can pay attention to me? When my bad foot hurt, who can pick me up when I fall? That was my giant. He never leave my side, and it hurts.
Miss Moss says that her son's killer is a friend and that jealousy may have played a huge role in the matter.
He's being to himself. He don't bother no one. Everybody would know my child. No, he never bother no one unless you bother him. He don't need a tool to pick up. The guy that killed him is his friend. If he buy a tennis today, that friend go buy one tomorrow. He was jealous of his own friend.
Moss says she is friends with the mother of her son's alleged killer and shared this message.
Well, his mother was my friend and still is. Reach out to me. Please, all I ask now is to reach out to me. Say something, ask me how I doing, ask me how I feeling, ask me what I going through, use my friend.
Shortly after we left the home, police confirmed that a suspect was caught earlier today in connection with this incident. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
Officers from the Drug Enforcement Unit have arrested and charged 5 suspects in 3 separate matters involving a bust of more than $115,000 worth of illegal drugs. In the first incident, a 31-year-old male resident of Domingo Heights was arrested and charged after 80 pounds of marijuana worth $80,000 was found in a Domingo Heights home. In the second incident, a 35-year-old male resident of Garland Avenue was arrested after officers found 3 pounds of marijuana worth $3,000 in his home. And in the third incident, an 18, 30, and 40-year-old men were arrested and charged in connection with $36,000 worth of marijuana that was found in a home on Montgomery Avenue. During the search, officers also found ammunition and 213 marijuana plants. And we have an update for a story we brought to you last week, that case involving a little girl who was sexually assaulted at an eastern New Providence park. Police say they have arrested a suspect in the case. Officers from the Criminal Investigation Department in New Providence have a 35-year-old man from Sandilands Village in custody. Police think he is the stranger who sexually assaulted the 12-year-old girl at the Eastern Estates Park last Thursday while she was playing with friends. And amid the ongoing debate over marital rape and whether Bahamian laws should tackle the issue, House Speaker Patricia DeVoe says, as an unmarried woman, it's difficult to have a balanced opinion on the matter.
When you're married and you would have spent years with your husband, I don't know how to balance the word rape in a relationship. So, I mean, I have my personal views that I'd keep to myself, but in terms of being married, I think it would be an unfair gesture for me to answer because I'm not married. It would have to be a case presented where something would have been happening for years, maybe there was some abuse or something in the relationship that would get me to react to something like that in a marriage.
However, she believes the act of rape in general is a crime and perpetrators should be dealt with accordingly.
I believe that a woman is in control of her body, and when she says no, it's no. And so if she's not married, and we're just using the word rape, I believe that it's a very criminal act. And coming out of a criminal background, because I've worked with the police department for more than 30 years, I've seen a lot, and I understand when we talk about the word rape, especially with children, I believe these guys should be hung.
Last week, when questioned on the issue, former Attorney General Allison Maynard Gibson stressed to reporters the need for legislation to tackle the issue.
Marriage doesn't contemplate, healthy marriage doesn't contemplate rape. Yeah, and I think that the necessary legislation, this is legislation. I hear people talking about, oh, we have this here, we have it there. It is so fundamental that it requires a systemic approach, and we need to have specific legislation that deals with it, how we will prosecute it, how we will punish it.
The wet weather you're experiencing right now forecast to continue over the next several days. Joining us now is meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first check on temperatures. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, Jamila, and thanks everybody. Welcome back. Still cloudy outside. We're still getting a few light showers. 73 degrees, very cool. The winds are blowing out there east at 23 miles per hour, and it feels like temperature is at 73. A lot of moisture associated with the frontal boundary that's stalled across the area will continue to provide us with some showers and isolated thunderstorms tonight to tomorrow. This front is not going anywhere anytime soon. Looks like we're going to continue to see some more wet weather over the next couple of days. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast system.
Still to come on our news, health officials reporting 80 new COVID-19 cases for the month of February in a just-released dashboard. We've got reaction to the months-long delay. And how localized flooding for the next several days is impacting businesses and your daily commute. Plus, why you may want to insure your property and vehicles ahead of this year's hurricane season. That's coming up when our news returns.
That part hard to get, you know.
Unless you go to
After months of delay, the Ministry of Health releasing today the monthly COVID-19 case and vaccine status report for February 2023. Those results indicate that there were 80 new COVID cases. That includes 44 men and 36 women who had positive RT-PCR tests. But that delay isn't sitting well with former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands, who is tonight calling for greater transparency.
I really don't understand what is so troublesome about keeping the public up to date with critical information. I mean, it's not so much February, but look at January. Look at the number of cases of COVID diagnosed by PCR in January of 2023, almost 250 cases. We saw an increase from November, almost 100% increase. And then another 60, 70, 80% increase in January.
In December of last year, the Ministry of Health and Wellness determined that the daily COVID-19 dashboard and weekly vaccination tracker would be combined and published monthly. However, the ministry in a statement admitted that due to what they're calling unavoidable circumstances, the cycle reporting was delayed. The statement also revealing cases for the month of March will be released in a few days, and monthly reports for December 2022 and January 2023 will follow shortly after. However, Dr. Sands believes the delay sends the wrong message.
It is, I think, fortuitous that there's been a drop, and maybe that is why now in April they decide to release the statistics. This is neither transparent nor helpful to the public in terms of adjusting or modifying behavior to protect themselves. And perhaps it speaks to wanting a particular narrative to be in the public domain. And that is that, hey, we beyond COVID now and we ain't checking for COVID, so you don't need any information.
With flooded roads impacting drivers in New Providence this morning, many business owners felt the lull as some residents opted to stay off of the roads entirely. Owner of 90-Day Transformation, Faisal Hall.
It was very wet today. The roads were, as you can see, Saunders Beach area, the roads were crowded with sand and stuff, but we managed to make it in. We're primarily an outdoor workout, but we do have indoor facilities, so everybody had to come inside today, of course, but we got it in, we got it done. We had a lot of clients kind of like stay home and stay off of the roads.
Manager of Juicing for Life, Hervé Swaby, tells us things were a bit quiet in their Saunders Beach location today, citing not only the flooding, but the sand and debris left by rough waters as the reason many chose to stay off the roads.
It's like it slowed down business a good amount. And this isn't as much as I want to say it's juicing weather. It doesn't look like it's come to Juicing for Life weather. A lot of people get deterred, especially on Bay Street, because we get a lot of debris from the beach, so we get the sand, the rocks, and the salt water. This morning on this stretch, it wasn't as bad, but further out west, I heard a lot of people complain, talk about how they had to play dodgeball with the debris.
With hurricane season less than 2 months away, Bahamas First Insurance President Patrick Ward says claims based on hurricane damage are amongst the leading insurance claims. Using Hurricane Dorian as an example, Ward explains the total impact hurricanes have on the insurance business.
Hurricane Dorian generated more than 12,000 claims here in the Bahamas in terms of insured losses. And that sort of collectively cost the insurance industry $1.6 billion. Actually, the number was probably closer to $2 billion when you factor in external companies that were not part of the reporting system here within the Bahamas. And that number comes from the Insurance Commission of Bahamas.
Ward also giving his take on whether or not the building code should be revised.
After Dorian, as is normally the case, when we have a natural disaster of that kind and of that severity, there was a lot of conversation around a lot of things. One of them was we need to take another look at zoning, where we allow people to build, the building code, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, I think there was a lot more talk than actual action. So, as an industry, we continue to lobby the government to take those proactive steps in order to do so.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, in service to country, IHOP workers donate thousands in tips to help the country's struggling main health care facility.
The Bahamas Carifta swim team returns after dominating in Curacao, and the Carifta track meet wraps up after an impressive showing from the Bahamas. Don't go anywhere. Our Sports is next.
And just how long will this wet weather continue? Greg is back with your weekly forecast planner when our news returns.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Corona, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is our news. Welcome back. The Bahamas swim team returns to an adoring home crowd, and the Bahamas track and field team finished up an impressive Carifta showing. Tej Adderley is up next with our sports.
Hello, Jamila. Welcome to Our Sports. Our 39-member swim team returned from their dominant outing in Curacao to an adoring crowd at the National Stadium, followed by a welcome reception at the Sports Ministry. Our Sasha Lightburn has all the details.
Swimmers on the 2023 Bahamas Carifta Aquatics team had a long day which began at the open water 5K race in Curacao. From there, the swimmers were escorted to Curaçao's International Airport, where they boarded a Bahamas Air charter flight, which would bring them back to New Providence shortly before 6 p.m. From there, the swimmers were escorted to the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium under police escort, where they were received and hit the track following the final races of the night. State Minister for Education Zane Lightbourne, who was a part of the official delegation to Curacao, explained what it meant to see that team 5-peat.
They went beyond expectations. It was an excellent win for the country because it made a solid statement that we are the powerhouse in swimming.
We also managed to catch up with Sports Minister Mario Boleg, who spoke to the government's commitment to the continued development of swimming in the country.
The mere fact that we decide to host the next Carifta Games and give them the respect that they need as we've been hosting track and field in the past. This tells you that we understand what they're doing. We are the best in the pool, so definitely we must do more.
And Prime Minister Philip Davis agreed.
Swimming is still a passion. They need not concern themselves where the emphasis is. They'll see it as we move on.
Now the swimmers were then treated to a welcome reception at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture's office, where Sports Minister Mario Boleg announced that when the Bahamas host the Carifta Aquatics Championships next year, they will be held in a brand new facility. He also announced that by the end of 2024, Grand Bahama will have a 50-meter Olympic-sized swimming pool. Reporting for Our Sports, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
Thank you, Sasha. A deserving welcome for our elite swimmers. The 50th Carifta track and field meet is all wrapped up after the final day of competition yesterday. Our Joshua Williams was on the track throughout the day, and he has this recap.
The Carifta Track and Field Games wrapped up its final day of competition at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. The final medal count: Jamaica on top with 68 medals, the Bahamas in second with 41 medals, and Trinidad and Tobago in third with 22 medals. The start of the final day saw Kamara Strawn set a new Carifta and national record in the under-17 javelin throw. She says defeat in last year's games propelled her to success this year.
I feel very, very great about it because last year I came fourth and I was a little sad last year, but now I set my mind to say that I'm gonna get the record.
Then there was Adam Musgrove, who pressed to the line to win the bronze in the under-20 boys 200 meters.
Not even this weekend, my whole track career. Like I said before, last year I wasn't even in the finals. So they got me not only medal in one event, but two. That's insane. Like, remember me say, glory be to God.
Yeah.
Then the high point of the day, Jamia Nabi, fresh off her gold medal performance in the under-17 girls 100 meters, snagging another gold in the under-17 girls 200 meters with a time of 23.67 seconds.
It feels amazing. I came into the race a little fatigued and tight from the events over the previous weekend, but I still came out with the goal. I pushed hard in my race.
She trained hard all year to get here, and she didn't even qualify at first. It took a while for her to qualify, but we're here now for the moment.
She make me proud. I started leader of the year right there. She put in plenty hard work, and she worked hard for the last 3 days.
The Bahamas officially handed over the game's flag, which will be held in Grenada next year. Reporting for Our Sports, I'm Joshua Williams.
And that was sports. I'm Tej Adderley.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, the Good Samaritan IHOP workers who are donating their tips for a good cause. And Greg is back to help you plan your morning and afternoon commutes as the wet weather continues. Your weekly forecast planner is coming up when Our News returns.
Welcome back to Our News. It's going to be another 3 days before we see this weather clearing out of the area. Here now with your weekly forecast planner is meteorologist Greg Thompson. Greg.
Yeah, thanks again, Jimmy. Welcome back, everybody, for our final look at weather. Yeah, you did mention a couple of days before things started to clear out. The frontal boundary is still hanging across us. It's stationary, but there's a low pressure system that's going to take shape across the Gulf of Mexico. That low will track towards the north and east, and that should move across Florida, and that will in turn drag a lot of this moisture back up across us. So we're looking for showers throughout tonight, showers tomorrow, and then we can start to see things taper off on Thursday. High pressure behind that is generating some very strong winds, so we're asking beachgoers and boaters to stay out of the water. Gust to gale force expected across the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow, but conditions will be going, well, improving. Here's the moisture associated with that in our future forecast across the northwest Bahamas and into the Gulf of Mexico. Through tomorrow, we expect that moisture to slide us across our area. Once again, showers and thunderstorms will be in the forecast, and then by Thursday, more moisture still staying with us as that low pressure tracks towards the north and east across Florida and keeping that front boundary across our area. Boating, not advised for you tonight through tomorrow. Wind advisory, no boating and beaching. Northeast to east winds 20 to 25 knots. It will be gusting to near gale force across the northwest Bahamas. 5 to 8 foot seas, but up to 14 feet in some swells. Tide will be high at 12:58 in the morning. Central and southeast Bahamas, we're asking your boaters to remain in port as well. East northeast to east southeast at 15 knots. Seas 3 to 5 feet, but up to 9 feet in some northeasterly swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, showers in the forecast tomorrow, showers in the forecast Thursday, and then we start to see some clearing. Saturday, we expect that frontal boundary to still hang around, so we could see a couple of showers in the forecast by that time as well. That's a look at our forecast. Back to you, Jamila.
All right, thank you, Greg. Staff at the newly opened International House of Pancakes at the Mall of Marathon raised $3,000 from their own tips to donate to the Princess Margaret Hospital. Local franchisee Burton Rogers tells us how it happened.
The suggestion to them that during our training session on Saturday, our friends and family moment, rather than taking the tips, they decided that they'll make a donation to PMH. That's pretty awesome of them. We're looking to work with other charities, the Children's Emergency Hostel. We're looking to work with a couple other charities, Foam. There's a few others we're looking to partner with.
Dine Brands International's Regional Vice President of the Americas, William Urigo, says community service is part of IHOP's mission.
We're going to be doing this throughout the year. So we have one special day that we call the National Pancake Day, where we ask our customers to give back to their community. So by giving a small donation, they get a short stack of pancakes, so that is 2 pancakes with a buttercream, and is to make sure that they donate all that. So we donate those proceeds to the charity of choice at the moment. So this is something that, Vernon has been committed, giving back to the community, and we want to show that support as well.
All right, excellent initiative. Now to see that again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Jamila Mizik. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night.